Ladies and gentlemen, lords and ladies, welcome to a special edition of Marked by Wrestling. There's no wrestling on tonight. No, no, ma'am, no, sir. At least none that we're watching. We are taking our monthly deviation from the world of professional wrestling to chat some movies with a dear friend of the coalition. And so last month, if you joined us, you might have seen our Marvel Cinematic Universe conversation. And if not, I implore you and humbly suggest you take some time to revisit that conversation that is on the channel, Marked by Wrestling. And tonight we'll be jumping onto the other side of the fence, the hot ticket right now, DC Comics, the DC Universe, DC films, all things DC tonight. And without further ado, joining me is my partner in crime, my coalition, cohort, co-worker, colleague, what have you, brother from different mothers, but we're brothers nonetheless. From A&B Convos Wrestling Edition, welcome AJ to the crowd, ladies and gentlemen. And
Let me tell you something, man. Let me tell you something, Mean Gene. I was in the gym clanging a banging dude upstairs talking to the man, and I said, "Looky here, Jack. You need to bring back Henry Cavill as Superman, brother." And he says, "You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and smite down James Gunn and bring back Jack Snyder too."
we got the guns, the 24-inch pythons blazing tonight. Real quick, just want to
Oh,
say greetings to Teflon Don, our mod father here. J.R.
how
Dugan,
you
good to
doing,
see you.
Teflon
Zach
Don?
Minger, welcome. Michael, good to see you as well. And as you guys keep pouring in, we're just going to get started. So, yeah, all right. So just for the greater context of things, DC films, goes back quite a bit, of course. I think the bigger meat of our conversation is probably going to be surrounding the as some refer to it on the internet, the Snyderverse versus what we're currently starting to get into with James Gunn, which is really just getting started with Superman, and we'll see from there. But really, DC films, I mean, AJ, tell me, like, growing up, like, were superheroes kind of a part of your childhood to a degree? And if so, like, how did DC and Marvel kind of weigh in on that with you just historically?
Not at all.
Not at
Not
all.
at all. Well, I wouldn't say not at all. I'll say this much. I was never a comic book guy.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't get into them. Didn't really. I tried. I had friends that were into them. I just didn't get it. Wish I was. Didn't realize that special editions, first editions. I didn't realize the cha-ching
Yeah.
that you could be making with comic books. I had no idea.
Mm.
Um, but no, I watched the cartoons. I watched movies. I've always been impartial to partial to Batman. He was my favorite uh, superhero of all time. When it came to DCU and MCU, as a kid, I didn't know the difference between Iron Man and Superman. I
Sure.
didn't realize that I didn't realize there was a different universes. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Not until I got much older that I understand the differences in the universes. So it really wasn't until I became an adult, in the much latter years, that I began to really appreciate superhero films the way that I do now. So it
Mm-hmm.
was a very interesting uh, transition, I guess you could say, looking back at where I came from versus where I am now. You would think that I was just a superhero nerd all my life, but in fact, it was really all about Star Trek. So that's
Hey,
where my nerdom went to.
awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I started off early with superheroes, man. But I got to tell you, like, Marvel wasn't even a blip on my radar probably until like middle school. I kind of rode. I was never super into comic books themselves either. I mean, here and there, sometimes I'd see stuff. Um, but yeah, my fandoms rose and fell with cartoons. So my older brother got me into like the Super Friends and like the Challenge of the Super Friends. So like they weren't called the Justice League, but it was the Justice League for those of you, who were too young for that. But it was Superman and Batman and Robin and Aquaman and the Flash and, all these guys and their counterpart villains as well, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Green Arrow, whatever, and in doing all of that, I even remember, I wish I'd been able to take the time. It's been a little bit of a busy day in the Mark by Wrestling household, but I had AJ. I don't know if this is really taps into your generation or not, but like when we were like little kids, there was a children's book author named Richard Scarry who he used to make these books, like these huge like picture books, and basically they're just books that were designed. Yes, the Wonder Twins. I left the Wonder Twins out. J.R. Dugan. Thank you for the name drop there. Activate. Let's go. All right. So but Richard Scarry would make these big, like coffee table sized books. Basically, they were just word books to teach little kids what the words of things are. So, like, you get a whole city, and everything is labeled from like sidewalk to fire hydrant to building to window and all this stuff. And it's all these like little animals and stuff dressed up as things. So anyway, that was a pretty popular learning, educational book when I was coming up. But I had a Super Friends edition of a book like that. And so it was like, and I want to find this meme later. Maybe I can post it on the channel. But there is one, it almost became a meme of it was like a math problem. And it was like, there are 40 cakes. Lex Luthor has stolen 25 cakes. Are remaining. And it's this picture of Lex Luthor with all these cakes.
Oh my gosh.
What are we doing? Junkyard
Wow.
dog, man, grab them cakes, so it's just like, yeah, it's just weird stuff. So anyway, like, yeah, DC is where I started loving superheroes, and I got into like Spider-Man and the X-Men like in the early to mid 90s when those Saturday morning cartoons started.
Yeah.
And I didn't really even get much the Avengers as we know it. Like my biggest introductions into them were pretty much in those movies. Like we weren't watching Iron Man and Captain America. The Incredible Hulk did used to scare me as a kid because we had Lou Ferrigno doing that thing, juiced up Lou Ferrigno in the 70s, just looking terrifying. But other than that, yeah, it was DC all day, baby. So like, go ahead. What's that?
It's not as terrifying as the evil, scary Hulk. Remember that episode?
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. The at the end of the day, in a perfect world, if everything is done correctly, in my opinion, my favorite superhero is Superman. Above all others. So if all characters are being done right, Superman's my favorite. And I like Batman a lot too. I was about to say, even before I got into Spider-Man and the X-Men, there was Batman the Animated Series, which came out like right after Batman Returns did, and then that is still one of the best, one of my favorite Batman properties that exists. There's actually a cartoon series on Amazon Prime now called Batman Caped Crusader that is really like a spiritual cousin of Batman the Animated Series. So if any of you guys loved Batman the Animated Series back in the day and you have Amazon Prime, watch Batman Caped Crusader. It feels like watching an updated version of that. It's a little bit of a different take, but it really has the same spirit to it. It's a lot of fun. Okay, so all right, so yeah, you were super into Batman then. Of them all, yeah. And Batman, I think, is a really relatable. Doesn't feel like the right word to use to describe Batman, but like he is like the regular guy superhero, and I think all of his different things, his struggles, his rationale, like he's again, when done right, the detective superhero, the his onus of like basically wanting to be a hero to prevent things happening to people that happened to him as a kid, like that kind of MO is great. Is great stuff. So anyways, I mean, we've been through, and I mean, I know if we had more time, we can we could dig into Tim Burton and Joel Schumacher and the Richard Donner Superman, the Christopher Reeves Superman films. Christopher Reeve was the Superman for me growing up. I mean, he's the one that I had, and and the movies maybe didn't, catch up with how well I think he really presented who Superman was, even who Clark Kent was too. But in 2013, is it? Let me look. Yeah, 2013, the summer of 2013. We're 5 years into the MCU, and here start coming, and we're the after the Christopher Nolan Batman films. Which interestingly enough, we got Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man and The Dark Knight in the same summer, which is just unreal when it comes to superhero movies looking back. But here we are in 2013, and we get Man of Steel. We get the beginnings of the Snyderverse, of the DC EU, the DC Extended Universe, which started with Man of Steel, and according to Wikipedia, ends with the Aquaman sequel. Excuse me, Aquaman single sounds like he's going to drop a sick beat. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom at the end of 2023, and then from then on we have a reboot, which, to be fair, I'm hearing conflicting things. The DCEU says it ends with Aquaman, but I've heard that Blue Beetle is kind of being grandfathered into this new DC. I don't know. That was a fun movie though, and I love that actor because I was super into Cobra Kai, and he was one of the primary characters in Cobra Kai as well. But nevertheless, we start with Man of Steel, we end with Aquaman, and now we're in a summer of a new Superman, and so let's just get into it, because like I just love to just set up the tee and let you take your swing, and I'll just volley back as necessary. But I'm curious because here's the thing. Before we even get into it, especially if we're talking about Superman, because that's the only true hero. I mean, I guess James Gunn also had his Suicide Squad too, so we could touch on that if we want to do that, because we have two Suicide Squads to compare against one another. But we have two distinctly different visions for Superman, at least how they were presented in their beginnings. Nevertheless, so I will give you the floor. Tell me your thoughts on Man of Steel, on the Snyderverse, as deep as you want to go, or if you just want to harvest in one little area, we can talk about that and move on. And if you want to compare it to Gunn, now that you've had an opportunity to catch up with the new Superman as well, let's hear it.
I saw the new Superman twice. Had to see it twice. Had to take it in twice. Not because I liked it, okay? Because I had to make sure that I really didn't like it. And the reality is, I did not care for this film as much as apparently the rest of the world has, and not nearly as much.
Tell me more. I'm just gonna eat my imaginary popcorn while you're talking.
Why we gotta do this? Why?
It's okay. We're gonna be friends no matter what. It's totally fine.
Why are we doing this?
No, it's all good.
I love that popcorn bucket. Love that
it is. I mean, like I couldn't not, right? Like we just time out real quick. We saw Fantastic Four a couple of days ago. They have a Galactus popcorn bucket, which I'm like, I cannot rationalize that. I cannot rationalize it, but that thing is huge, bro. Like it's just insane. All right. Sight gags aside, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So here's the thing. One of the reasons that I like Man of Steel so much is that I did not mind it being darker at all. It's little things that make a big impact on me. I loved the suit. I didn't even realize, it didn't even really dawn on me that this suit did not have red trunks. And because now that this new Superman has come out and you're on social media and whatnot, and you have so many people like your background, they are posting of all of these different Supermans, over the years. And I'm seeing all of these suits, and then I see Henry Cavill's suit, and I went, "Oh my gosh, he does not have red trunks. I didn't even realize that."
Mm-hmm.
And aside from it just looking a little darker, it had a different texture to it. Um, I said, yeah, I really loved that suit. So right out of the gate, number one. Number two, I don't know what's the name of this actor that's playing Superman right now?
David Corn Sweat.
Corin Sweat. I don't know what this dude looks like outside of the suit. I don't know if he's buff. I have no idea how much of that is him, how much of it is the suit. Um, Henry Cavill, when he got into this role, he really got into this role. He really beats himself up, and so I envision Superman like that. I envision Batman being a bigger guy. I liked Black Adam, the fact that you had The Rock being who he is and not needing to wear any padding. He specifically said, I don't want to wear any padding on this suit. And you're looking at this guy going, good gracious, this is what you're supposed to look like. You look like a comic book drawing of a villain, of a superhero. This is what I want to see. So I like that. I liked the mom in that film. I liked Zod in this film. I like the fact that we saw Krypton in a way that we had never seen Krypton filmed before. Really, legitimately, my best memory of Zod, Superman 2. My real memory of Jor-El is Marlon Brando, and that is held.
My son.
I,
Sorry.
you know what I'm saying? It is held
Hello. Yes.
since 1979.
Look what
So
they did to my boy.
the massacre, my boy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I loved the way they filmed it. Then I really enjoyed everything about Man of Steel. Seeing him as a kid, seeing how his powers started to develop, and how it kind of started to freak him out a little bit. I had no qualms with Man of Steel whatsoever.
Mm.
You enter Justice League. Um, I'll watch it. It's a fun ride overall. And then I saw the special edition Justice League, and I went, where was this in the theater? What
Right.
happened? What on who? Then I got
We
angry.
can we can shake hands on that one. Zack Snyder's Justice League, and I will have some things to say about Zack Snyder when it's my turn, but I want to meet you in the middle on that one. Like his vision of Justice League versus what we got
Oh,
initially were really terribly, and it really sucks too, because there were very real life tragic circumstances that led to that happening, like
yeah,
him having to step away from the project because of a loss of a child and stuff, but like that. But yeah, Snyder's vision, I'll give him credit for his Justice League, was tonally consistent. I'll say. um and yeah, and I enjoyed it on first watch. I'll say I didn't watch it many times because it is long.
it is
But
very it
it's
is
a
very
sit. But yeah, thank God it came out during the COVID year. I don't know how long it would have taken me to finish it in any other
well,
time.
it's actually really true. Calm down, jail mascot. So I'll just say this real quick. Um, the biggest issue that I have with the DC universe is the constant start and stop, the constant
Mm,
change. People really don't want a lot of let's start over again. Let's start over again. Let's start over again. There was always somebody different playing these characters.
yeah.
And for better or for worse, we can debate that till the cows come home. Um, I liked uh, um, I can't think of the actor's name right now. I'm terrible with actors' names. Who played the Joker in against Harley Quinn with
Oh, Jared Leto.
Jared Leto, because
Oh,
we've seen that Joker before in the cartoons. So every actor has played a different version of the Joker that I've appreciated.
yeah.
Uh, and I like Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. The issue that I had with that Joker, much like the issue that I had with Ben Affleck's Batman, is that they were old.
Mm.
and that was not accurate to when they actually began as these characters. They
Yeah.
were much older. You were not that old when you started Justice League. You were not that old when you began as Joker. So I understand it was a take on things, and that was fine. But again, without the consistency, and that's where I really fell in love with the MCU. At least for a good solid, you know, within that decade period, they were consistently giving me stories that one followed the other. And as I'm putting puzzles to pieces of this puzzle together, things started to fit and form a picture of what they were trying to do. And the DCU to me was just so disjointed. It was all
Mm.
over the place. And
Yeah.
it was really difficult to be on board with this. I'm like, just give me something. And I say that about wrestling when I'm getting into wrestling, but I said that about pro wrestling. It's like it's all about the story. It is at the end of
Yeah.
the, but when you're doing and you're starting something, then you're stopping it, and then you're starting it, and then you're acting like you never started it. It just blows my mind with the inconsistencies.
Yeah.
So Justice League comes out. I'm like, okay, great. Then they came out with a different version of the Justice League, and I'm like, okay, great. And then they come out with um oh gosh, you just said it. Uh Dang it, what's it with Will Smith. You just mentioned the film that he was in with Harley
Uh,
Quinn.
oh, Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad.
Aren't we
So they come
something?
out with Suicide
Suicide Squad.
Squad. I didn't dislike Suicide Squad. Um but then I also did not like the ultimate villain in Suicide Squad. I thought it was way too. I, I'm gonna say it, dorkish. She was a dork.
Yeah.
She
And
was.
part of that's casting.
I'm,
Yeah.
how much? I mean, I seriously, like, I paid money to see this, and
Yeah.
this is what you give me, and then they come out with the Suicide Squad, and I'm just like, I'm pulling my hair out at this point. I'm like, what are
Yeah.
we doing? And I really did not like the Suicide Squad. I
Yeah.
see where they were going with it, but I was like, and then you still pulled in people from Suicide Squad into the Suicide Squad. So I'm like, is this new? Is this not new? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I just was all over the place with DCU. And I
Yeah.
watched Superman, the new Superman 2025. We'll call it Superman 2025.
Hmm.
I watched Superman 2025. And my initial feeling after coming out of that going it was a big summer spectacular, and I still felt like it was all over the place.
Hmm.
And so then I'm like, I gotta watch it again. I gotta
Hmm.
I gotta I gotta take it in, and I really reserve judgment to watch it again. And so we go and watch it again, and I'm really studying this, and I'm looking at it, and I'm taking it in, and it didn't feel quite as all over the place as it did initially. Um, but ultimately, I see where they were going with it. This felt more comic bookish than the last film did. I think there was obviously that was part of the intent. I like the fact that you brought in some different characters. I loved Crypto. I loved uh, Mr. Terrific. Uh,
I'm Mr. Terrific.
I love that. I saw a scene. He said the actor was giving an interview, and he said, I went to that actor and I said, look, man, I'm going to mush you in the face. I want you
Yes, I saw that.
to do that.
That was so important. Like that. Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't even like loved it, loved it.
It made the scene.
So my thing with that film is, and we'll get into it because I want to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah.
I still don't like the suit.
Okay.
Do not like the suit. I don't like the way it looks. I don't like the way it fits. I feel like he's wearing granny panties as
Uh-huh.
as, as the red trunks. Um,
Is that the red trunks in general or his body composition with the red trunks?
it's I can't really say because I was looking at
Okay.
some old Christopher Reeve stuff, and I
Yeah.
was looking at his trunks, and I don't know. I don't
Okay.
know. Maybe they shouldn't have been so big. Like
Sure.
like
Just
Becky had brought, she likes to buy me chonies. I don't know why, and she just does. So she likes to buy me chonies. And she bought me a pair of Chonies, the pair before last. They were huge. They were gigantic. And I looked at these things and I went, "What is this?" She says, "What? I think they'll look good on you." And I'm looking at these things, and that's what it reminded me of. It reminded me of
Uh-huh.
these gigantic, chunky chonies
Yeah.
that just were not very form fitting to that suit. Um, and this Superman was a little. I want to. We'll get to Superman, but
Okay.
that's my general overall take on where we have been with the DCU. Again, coming from somebody that didn't read the comics, that I
Yeah.
did watch some of the cartoons, and as a kid, really the cartoons that I really started to pay attention to superhero wise was X Men.
Yeah.
I felt like, and it had X Men. What was it? 99. What was it? Is that what it was that came out recently?
The one that just came out was an X called they call it X-Men 97. But yeah,
X Men
it's
97.
excellent.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. It had that straight up 90s feel without a shadow of a doubt and updated to the 2000s.
Yeah.
Absolutely excellent. But I love that animation. I
Yeah.
didn't like the animation with the old school, like the Justice League and all that. I saw it, I remember it, like
Oh,
the
yeah.
mutant coming out of the swamp. You know what I mean?
Are you talking about the old or like Justice League
Like
Unlimited?
the
This stuff.
old,
Oh
I
yeah. I mean,
mean,
like that's just straight nostalgia goggles
yeah,
on that one.
yeah,
By the
never,
way, B is in the chat saying, in my defense, they were supposed to be the right size. I don't know why they were that big. So, clearly
no problem.
she just has a very uplifting view of your body
I love you.
composition, man.
I love
We should all be so lucky that our ladies think
you.
so highly of us.
I love you. So I will simply say, I'm very particular about my animation. It has to look a certain way in order for me to
Yeah.
watch it.
Yeah.
So
My
that's the
favorite.
reason why I didn't watch those cartoons.
Yeah, I would prefer X-Men's animation over that. I mean, granted, it was the animation of the 70s, when the
Yeah,
Super Friends came out. I honestly like when we're doing animation, Batman the Animated Series is my favorite because it looks so timeless in a way, like it's just in some weird 50s gangster alternate universe kind of thing, and like I just absolutely love that. But the DC universe, man, so they have or
I'm
had
gonna. You talk. I gotta put him downstairs. She's gonna do something.
sure.
I'll be back in one
Okay.
second. Go ahead. Go
All right, cool. Well, I'll pause. I'll not pause, but I'll stall just a little bit so you can hear this when you get there. Um, so yeah, like I mean, in terms of animation styles, because like the X-Men of the early 90s and X-Men 97, and the Spider-Man cartoon from 94, like I think those were peak animations for me. Um, they had a little bit of crossover with each other. I really enjoyed that, but also Batman as well. I really, really enjoyed the Batman the Animated Series, and I think part of that too is just like the storytelling of those cartoons and stuff. They're
ahead.
super well done. But when it comes to the actual DCEU, I'm not going to lay the blame at Snyder. I think it was a Warner Brothers problem at the end of everything. Justin, my favorite Batman cartoon was Batman the Animated Series, the OG animated series from '92, that launched after the release of Batman Returns. That still had like the Danny Elfman theme music from the movie and stuff. That was my favorite stuff. Now, um, if I may pull a quick wrestling analogy out of two figures who have been at the center of wrestling conversations right now, is in July of 1998, the WCW was getting their butt handed to them in the ratings by WWF Raw, by Stone Cold Steve Austin, by DX, by the Austin McMahon storyline, all this stuff. And so WCW jumps the gun and counter programs with 3 days notice, announcing on Thunder, their B show, that in 3 days, the late great Hollywood Hogan will be defending his title in the Georgia Dome against Bill Goldberg, the hottest babyface act in the company, with no build, No interaction between Goldberg and the NWO. Goldberg was just a mid-card U.S. champion wrecking shop. And the match itself was a great thing, but like they could have done so much more with it had they been patient, had they actually built to it, if it was actually like a pay-per-view maybe instead of just an episode of Nitro. They sold the farm to get one ratings victory, and like by the next week they were behind again. And I think Warner Brothers, I would probably lay the blame at the studio's feet more so than Snyder or anybody else. They had a Marvel problem, and they started counter programming with some of their heaviest hitting stuff way too soon out of the gate. I absolutely despise Batman versus Superman as a movie because it took all the best parts. It's like Batman versus Superman is like if you cook yourself a good pan of brownies, right? And you just grab right out of the middle of the pan. You don't cut it into pieces. You just take a handful right out of the middle of the pan for yourself and then give the pan to everybody. And they're like, man, this is great brownies. Like, great. Well, you ruined it for everybody else just so you could have the best spot for yourself. After one Superman movie, which is all the DCU was, at that point, they decide they want to introduce Wonder Woman, do the Doomsday storyline, and do the Dark Knight Returns story of Batman all in one movie. And like, I'm trying to not use crass phrasing here, but just talking about counting all your chickens before they hatch, I guess. Like, you just hatched them all, like right there. And then I'm like, well, now what? Like, you've already killed Superman. Are you going to do the like Rise of the Superman story? Oh, no, you're just going to give us a half-baked Justice League movie instead when you had a perfectly good Flash on TV, and then you gave us that hot garbage on screen and Ezra Miller, and then Aquaman, who looked like he belonged to, like, and this is not against Jason Momoa. I like him. I just think he was miscast. Like, he's talking like a Fast and Furious dude. Like, since when is, I guess you could make the argument if you'd never seen Aquaman in anything that you could pitch to somebody, oh, we'll just make him like a surfer bro. I'm like, I guess you could say that because it's the ocean and all this other stuff, but whatever. Anyway, so Man of Steel. Let me go to Man of Steel, and then I'll parry that a little bit with James Gunn's Superman to give you my counterpoint. I like Henry Cavill. I like him as an actor. I think he might be the best looking Superman, that we've had. And a quick anecdote, by the way, about the briefs, about the undies or whatever that we're calling them. I actually read this today by happenstance. I wasn't looking for it, but James Gunn actually said we almost didn't do that for this movie. Where he's like, I actually wasn't going to do it. And David, his Superman, sat down with him, and they had like, it's evidence he was having collaborative discussions with his cast about his characters. David argued for it, and his reasoning was Superman is an alien. He is, he wants to endear himself to humanity, and he wants to look non-threatening to children and stuff. So what better way than to dress up like a pro wrestler? And so his rationale for why Superman wears the trunks is to look like a pro wrestler, and that kids would be more less threatened, less afraid of him that way when he's trying to do that. And I absolutely love that rationale. And listen, I know some people prefer it, some people don't. I don't care as much. It doesn't distract me. Like I didn't really have an opinion on Cavill not having it either, obviously every other Superman I had, every toy I ever had the trunks and stuff. And so like, that's what's familiar to me, and that's what's nostalgic to me and stuff. But I'll tell you my biggest beef with Superman, and I said this on Twitter on my Marked by Wrestling page a couple days ago, is that it's kind of funny that Henry Cavill Superman mopes around like he listens to My Chemical Romance when David Corenswet's Superman probably actually did listen to My Chemical Romance, bringing back the punk rock stuff, which maybe we can get to that later. But that's James Gunn and music, baby. Like, I mean, he just, he's got a good taste for music and marrying that into his stories and stuff. But nevertheless, my biggest, the biggest hurdle I'm always going to have to try to overcome, in stories, is if you don't respect the core aspects of certain characters. You can set up any universe you want, and you can follow rules in that. If you set up rules in a universe, you just follow those rules. And if you set up weird rules, then that's fine. As long as you stay true to them. If you tell me who a character is, then that character needs to be that character. And there are certain things about characters in that Superman universe, certain changes that he made, that I did not care for at all in Man of Steel. And again, this isn't about the actors; it's really more about the storytelling. Another good thing I'll say though, again, is that like nobody can compete with John Williams when it comes to movie music. Whether it's Star Wars, Superman, Indiana Jones, Hook, whatever. I know one of these things is not like the other for some of y'all, but I love Hook too, whatever. So anyways, timeless stuff. And so for James Gunn to sort of Jimi Hendrixify the John Williams score, I thought was a great choice. I love the fonts and the credits were very 1978 credits, very referential in that way. And I love that too. Hans Zimmer did the score for Man of Steel. And that sort of, there's two pieces of music that really get sort of recurred throughout the film. One of them is that big bombastic, he's flying through the air Superman song. And then there's a gentler version of that that's just done like with a piano, which is like, you see it, especially at the end, you see it when you get the flashback of Jonathan and Martha watching him as a kid running around the yard, which God forbid we could have let Jonathan and Martha act that way the whole movie, but whatever, tack it on in the last 5 minutes and all is forgiven, I guess, for some of y'all. But that softer piece I think was so beautiful. And when they did the Zack Snyder's Justice League, when Superman finally does show up to save the day, they give us that piece of music. Like when he steps between Steppenwolf and Cyborg to save the day. And I'm like, that was perfect. That was a pitch perfect piece of music. But I absolutely, one of the things that I draw so close and value so much about following the rules, so to speak, of the Superman story is that being from Krypton gives Superman powers. It's what makes him super. But being a Kent is what makes him a man. And if it weren't for him being raised in Smallville by the Kents, he's just Zod. Like, he could be anybody. But the reason why he has the heart that he has is because he was raised by humble farmers out in the Midwest. And I felt like Man of Steel robbed us of that and gave us way too much of Jor-El being his purpose for things. I visually the Krypton sequences were impressive. I've just never been that interested in his Kryptonian history as a viewer. I like the fact that he is a stranger in a strange land who doesn't know a whole lot about his history, and he has to figure out how to take this culture that he was born with and merge that into being the best person that he can be, and how can he use that through the lens of being a good man, of loving humanity, of being their protector instead of their overlord. Which he could be, because like in other people, even before the James Gunn movie came out, other people I'd seen talk about different Superman stories said this, like when you're a Kryptonian and you're on Earth, you were a god amongst children. So you either have two choices: you rule over them, or you protect them. And that was also that guy. It was also his rationalization for, like, of course he killed Zod, because when another grown up shows up in the room and says, "I'm going to kill all these children," well, then you're done. Like, I can't let you do that, you know. And I can rock with that. But I absolutely, so as an adoptive parent myself, I have a lot of, I find a lot of myself in Jonathan Kent, right? And I was really excited to see Kevin Costner be cast in that role, because I'm like, oh man, he could be perfect for that. And the decisions they had him make made me absolutely furious. Every father will have moments of indecision, but I think, and sorry, this isn't meaning to turn into some parenting podcast, but I think your best decisions as a father are to not show those moments of indecision in front of your children when they are feeling vulnerable. And so when it's like, what was I supposed to do? Let all those kids on the school bus die? He says, maybe. What? Like, are you kidding me? Like, in what world is that a line that needs to be uttered in front of Clark on screen? Like, it's absolutely stupid. And I'm not saying that, like, it was wrong for Jonathan Kent to wrestle with that a little bit, but not there. Like, you don't do that. And I will say later on in that scene, he does a really good job of, like, reiterating, like, you know, you're not, it's like, you are my son. Like, don't let this treat you, you know, and I appreciate them doing that, because those are real conversations that get had, you know. But also Kent's death was just so stupid. The tornado thing was so dumb, so completely irredeemably dumb, because I don't have a problem with Jonathan Kent dying either. Although I was really, really happy to see that he made it through this one, because of how they used him in this movie. But multiple Superman movies and shows and stuff have Jonathan Kent dying. But when Jonathan Kent dies, it is used as a moment, because I think in the 78 Superman, he dies of a heart attack or something like that. Like, you know, they're racing on the way home. He has a heart attack. And at the end of the day, Superman, Clark has to learn, there are some people I will never be able to save.
Yeah.
There are some things that are beyond my power. But you know what's not beyond Clark's power? Being fast enough to save a man from a tornado. So if you want to kill him off, do it, but use it in a way that truly makes Clark vulnerable, not being Elsa from Frozen and conceal, don't feel, don't let them know. You know, like, and that's what Man of Steel was doing. He was so mopey. And like, and here's the thing. It's not that I don't have a place for mopiness in heroes, but Batman has the right to be a mopier hero in moments if he wants to be. Superman at the end of the day is an ideal. In a way, I touched on this a little bit when we were talking about something else one day, but he is an ideal. He is someone, Batman is somebody who is a protector. He's a vigilante. Maybe he's a little crazy and a little self-sabotaging. He's relatable in those ways. I'm not saying any of those things as criticisms. I'm just trying to describe him, right? And how he and Superman are different. Superman, like when this, and I think this was the other thing too. The way they handled Superman for me and Man of Steel only amplified how much Marvel had more of a Superman than DC did in Steve Rogers. Like, Steve Rogers was more of a Superman than Henry Cavill's Superman by the way they were written in the stories. And so I think Superman should be an ideal. He should be something that we aspire to. He is like, and to a lot of people, even to a lot of Christians, and like, he's a Christ type figure, you know, and like, he's been written that way in certain comics. I mean, it was a couple of Jewish guys who came up with Superman. So like, I mean, there is a bit of a Judeo-Christian ethic in who Superman is, and being raised in, you know, the Midwest and, you know, like, good moral values and stuff. And he is the moral we can aspire to, you know. Steve was a genetically altered human, Rickerty, but there was nothing genetically altered about his moral code.
Mm.
And that's what made him special. And that's what I'm getting at with Superman, is that this Superman did not display that moral code enough for me. Like, I think he got there at times, which it was what it was. And so honestly, I feel like the Corn Sweat Superman, I love, dude. I mean, you saw the popcorn tin, you know, I didn't need to buy that, but like, obviously, yeah, I loved that movie. And a lot of that was built on, they doubled down on making sure this Superman was fighting for hope, and he was fighting for the hope of humanity. He was fighting for hope of the entire world. Like, he wasn't just an American hero, which Cavill didn't get into that either. So like, you know, but like, he was so, and this is something I do like, because I'm very interested to see how James Gunn brings in a Batman figure, whether it's Pattinson, which I would be cool with. I like the idea, if they make truly different heroes try to share screen time together instead of making a more Superman palatable Batman. Take the Batman you have and let's see what happened when those two get in a room. I guarantee you Clark is going to get all over Batman's nerves, like being relentlessly optimistic and all this stuff. And like, I would love to see that. But Batman also is more tactical. He's smarter. Like, he's more, you know, world experience in ways. And Clark, like in those, like in the interview scene and stuff, like, he's so simplistic, but he's driven by something so right. He's like, I'm not fighting for anybody. I'm just trying to do good. Like, people were going to die. When he like crashes out on Lois and just yelled, people were going to die. Like, I felt that. Like, sometimes like you're making decisions and people want to criticize every angle that you're coming from and every motivation you have when you're just trying to do the right thing. And maybe you're in over your head a little bit, but you have the Spider-Man philosophy: with great power comes great responsibility. And he knows he's got a responsibility to do right by that. And he's being, you know, which we learn, he's being sabotaged, you know, in the public eye because of the things that Lex is doing and stuff. But, I love the heart behind what he's doing. And also, like, I thought it was a risky proposition to reveal that his Kryptonian parents had ulterior motives. I was still waiting. I was waiting for that to be a swerve, and it to be revealed that that was like doctored footage and like they were doing that to further ruin his reputation. But at the end of the day, I think, you know, the movie tells us that doesn't, even if it was doctored footage or not, it just doesn't matter. And I actually really liked Jonathan Kent's speech to him when they're just sitting on the front steps. And also, real quick, not casting movie star looking people to be his Midwestern parents. I have met so many people growing up in the rural South that could have passed for Jonathan and Martha Kent, for Ma and Pa Kent, in that movie. And like, they looked so authentic. And I love Costner and Diane Lane as actor and actress. Like, I mean, Costner's done a resume of some of my favorite movies, but having them be so ordinary was just such a plus for me. And for them to be sitting there, and for Jonathan Kent to say, for Pa Kent, they didn't really call him Jonathan in that movie, but Pa Kent to say to him, like, man, Clark, like, as parents, we just give you the tools to go out and make a big mess of your life, and like, and it's up to you to decide what man you're going to be. And like, that didn't make the Kents the saviors of Clark. It just made them like two parents who did their best, humbly and morally, to try to raise a good kid. And like, and he takes that, and that's who he is. Like, you know, that's how he responds to things, where he doesn't want to explode a giant monster. He wants to take him and throw him in an intergalactic zoo. You know, like, I mean, all these different things. And I absolutely love that, man. I know it's a different take. It is a departure from you know, it's a departure from Man of Steel. But Superman is funny because Henry Cavill's suit, his S, he said, stands for hope. But David Cornsweat's Superman actually brought the hope. Like, I didn't get much hope out of Cavill's Superman at all. And again, I just want to be clear, I'm not blaming Cavill. Like, you could have stuck Cavill in this Superman and it still would have, I think it still would have clicked. I think it would have been, some of the scenes probably would have been a little different. But yeah, it's not really on the casting for me, but just like, man, like I just felt like they did not understand what made him special. And on the contrary, I actually kind of I liked their casting of Ben Affleck as Batman. I mean, that iteration of Batman. I mean, I take to your point, like he was a little old to come in, but but the version they gave us, I thought he wasn't bad. I actually really liked Jeremy Irons as Alfred. Like
Mhm.
I was sad we didn't get more time of that. But yeah. So anyways, yeah, I mean there's other stuff we can talk about in the DCU for sure, but I'm happy with this Superman that we have, and I'm glad we're not going back to Man of Steel or Batman v Superman, because it was a mess for me. It was just an absolute mess for me. And it's not, and again, like and it's the storytelling. It's the way these characters are portrayed. And like the Kents were just so indifferent. And there was even a scene, and I think it was in Man of Steel, or maybe it was in Batman v Superman. I don't remember which one. But then he goes to talk to his mom, Martha, the magically unique name that only two women in the world have, and that all of a sudden, Batman and Superman turn into stepbrothers, and they're like, "Did we just become best friends?"
Yep.
Yep. His name's Martha. Yeah, and so I can't believe that was the finish to the match, dude. Like that was so awful, bro. But no, there's a scene where he goes to her because he doesn't know what to do and he's looking for advice, and she like really bitterly is like, be their savior or be their pariah. You don't know them anything. And I'm like, who peed in your coffee, lady? Like, and like, what's funny about that though is that Ma Kent says something similar to him in Superman, but it's all in the delivery.
Yeah.
She's like, the choice is yours. Like what they told him when he went back home in this movie, they didn't really say anything that different to him, but it's all in the presentation. It's all in the delivery. And they're like, hey man, the choice is yours over what kind of man you're going to be. And like, you don't owe it to us. You don't owe it to your birth parents. Like you owe it to you. Like, and you decide who that is. And what do you know? It was encouraging rather than dismissive. So didn't love it. Okay, if y'all are talking about Cape Crusader, Cape Crusader's been out. I touched on that earlier in the show, and it's wonderful. It is like a cousin of Batman the Animated Series.
That's what it was. Okay.
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about. Is Batman Cape Crusader? Yeah. If y'all haven't watched that, it's like 7 or 8 episodes, I think. It's really good. It was one of the first reviews I made when I made my movie channel. And it was, yeah. So it's definitely a shot. Anyway, do we want to keep digging down the Superman rabbit hole, or we want to maybe talk about Batman or talk about Wonder Woman or the Flash or somebody else?
Well, here's the thing. I would like to continue doing this and digging in a little more. I'm thinking we might need a part two
Sure,
because
sure.
I'm looking at the time and B's on her way back. We've got our reservation at 7:15, and I got to walk the mascots beforehand.
All right. We
Uh,
want to wrap up with a closing statement and to be
yeah, but can
continued.
we do a part two tomorrow? Maybe or
Yeah, let's have your evening and holler back at me when you get back and we can compare calendars. Does that work?
because I realized that definitely works. I realized this is too expansive for us to fit into one show.
Mm.
Um,
Let's call it the extended universe for a reason.
it's called the extended universe for a reason. You've made some very good points, some valid arguments when it comes to Man of Steel. Um, I'm gonna have to go back. I'm gonna have to watch this film again. It was actually on the other day, and it was just more
Oh,
like playing in the background, so I
yeah.
wasn't really paying attention. But you know how that is,
Yeah, yeah.
like dipping in, dipping out. Um, no, you're right about that. I actually did not care for Mom and Pa Kent in this particular piece of celluloid. I thought they were a little too simple for my taste.
Mm.
I get where you're coming from, as in they're just some regular folk. I think about that with Jesus a lot.
Mhm.
You have these paintings of an angelic, white Jesus holding up a thing, and that's not how he looked at all.
Right.
Not at all. And then you see these AI renders of what he really more than likely looked like. He was dark skinned, just very average looking, nothing out of the ordinary, and that makes total sense as to this is the guy that's going to be our king and our savior. That's going to be, you know what I mean? Like it makes
Yeah.
total sense why he would be like that. So I understand why you're in the middle of, you know, Anytown USA and you got some average mom and pop kind of looking folks. Totally get it. Diane Lane, Kevin Costner, I kind of get why they wanted that star power in that film.
Sure.
Uh,
That's
Trying
a
to do
very
what
Warner Brothers thing to do.
extremely. I get it. I get it. And I get why they decided to go this route.
Yeah.
Um, there were some things that, like I said, I did enjoy about this particular film, but I'm trying to think. It would have been, I don't know, for me, I think right out of the gate for the Superman, we got a lot of history in the first few seconds of the film. It was like, you know, 30 years ago this, 3 years
Yeah.
ago that, 3 hours, that kind of thing. Like, so he's setting this whole thing up, and like now we're just like
Yeah.
Superman said, we're right in the middle of the fray,
They
literally.
threw you in the deep end. Yep.
You know what I mean? Like you're in it. You're on the
Yeah.
treadmill. It's already going. Let's go. Let's go. And so this time I'm like, okay, for somebody that is not necessarily a fan, somebody that's coming in for the first time, you got to do a lot of digging into the background of these characters. Like, who is
Yeah.
Lex Luthor? Who is Mr. Scriven? Like, who are these people? Who is Hawkgirl? Who is Green Lantern? Like, I'm needing to understand. These are people that are already existing, and they've got a whole thing going on. How did Lex Luthor? He created pocket universes. In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, this is kind of interesting. You're younger. I'm used to seeing a much older Lex Luthor,
Yeah.
and for me, a much older Lex Luthor and a much older Superman. You've already got some history. You've already had some time to study Superman, and now you've got the Hammer of Bravia, whatever. What was it called? Bravia,
Baravia. Yeah.
Hammer of Baravia. Um, it seemed a little early for me
Mhm.
for this kind of uh for this kind of stuff to be
Yeah.
done. You have a clone, you have a full on clone of Superman already fully grown. Like you figured out how to create pocket universes for this and control these pocket universes, if you will. It seemed a little early for me. Like all
Hmm.
of this seems like you guys seem really young to have gotten here already. If it was
Yeah.
a Kevin Spacey, I would have
Oh,
I would have allowed it.
he
We
was a
don't.
he was a good Luther, by the way.
He
He
was a
he's
very good
he's
Luther.
he's never going to get his flowers now for good reason. But dang, man, he was a good
No,
Luther.
he
Um,
was a good Luther.
I totally received that point. Do we want to count that as like your kind of final thought there on for
Yeah,
now,
for
or
now,
is there more
I
you want
will
to say?
simply say you've made excellent points, and something that I'm going to have to go and rewatch and really kind of study and dig into what it is that you said. I want to receive what you said because I usually watch these films and I take it with whatever I take it with a grain of salt, whatever you
Sure.
want to call it. And
Hmm.
so and then but I don't really have a whole lot to bounce off. I'll bounce off of my family a little bit. I've got a buddy of mine that we'll go watch some stuff. But this is actually a really you've made some strong arguments that I want to go back and I really want to dissect this a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, I really want to. Yeah, that's my final thought. My final thought is simply, I'm gonna dissect this. When we
All
come
right.
back with part two, we will figure out our schedules. I really want to get into this. I
Yeah.
really
Well.
want.
All right. Well. I'll put a button on this really quick, and then we'll wrap up. I think you also bring up a good point because, like, at the end of the day, storytellers have to decide: are we going to frame a story as if someone's walking in for the first time, or are they walking in with knowledge? And
Yeah.
I did hear originally that there was talk before Warner Brothers or whoever got a case of the hurries and decided to slap the entire Justice League in like 2 movies in, because they were getting like nervous about Civil War and stuff like that coming out. Is that I heard that they were thinking about pushing the Justice League in and then doing individual movies later, like the opposite of what the MCU did, basically.
Yeah.
Instead of giving us individual heroes and then assembling them, just presenting you an assembled team and then breaking them off into individual properties after that. And, you know, it feels like we're getting a little more of the latter this time around with DC. I personally like that opening crawl for Superman. I like that it tells us he's 3 years in, which means he's comfortable being Superman, but he's still not fully, you know, matured in a way. And you can see that in how he acts, which I thought was really cool. And also, I now as for Superman in general, I guess I could throw this in too. But I tell you what, for as much as I love superhero movies, there's 3 things I never need to see ever again. Personally, I never need to see Uncle Ben get killed again. I don't need to see the Waynes get mugged in an alley again. And I don't need to see Krypton blow up again. Like, there's some stories that I feel like, and it's true, it can't be true of everyone, obviously. It just can't. You just can't do that. But there's some origin stories that have been done to death that, like, I don't need. You just give me a conversation in the movie if you need it. Just tell me. I don't need to see it happen again. I don't need to see those pearls drop on the sidewalk anymore. Like, and so, you know, with that, I like, and I liked that about Pattinson's Batman, that he just dropped us in there with like he's in year 2 or something like that, right? And that kind of stuff. And so, you know, that being said, for someone like me who, like, you know, and some of us who have an affinity for these characters and know a little bit enough about their backstory, it's kind of nice to hit the ground running a little bit. But I do understand where you're coming from, because dropping in, oh, what's his name? Guy Gardner's Green Lantern is a deep cut. He's like Green Lantern number 3 for those of y'all in the chat who are unfamiliar. Although I heard they're doing like a True Detective style Green Lantern series on HBO, with Kyle Chandler as Hal Jordan, and what's his name? Oh gosh, Rebel Ridge guy, Aaron Pierre as John Stewart. And I'm like, give me that show. If you're talking about gritty and stuff, if they're like coming to Earth to investigate a murder, as the Green Lantern Corps, and Guy Gardner apparently is going to show up in that show. And I'm like, okay, man, like I'm in with you on that. So anyways, like we're in the stage right now where we don't have a whole lot to go off of from James Gunn other than his Suicide Squad movie and this Superman movie. And so for me, like the hope and the anticipation is still there. I just absolutely loved that they give us a Superman who loves helping people and does not have one lick of a guilty conscience about it. And like, and like he wants that. He knows that's his purpose. And he also knows that he's fallible too. And he's like learning to work with other people. And I'll just say this real quick and then I'll wrap it up. I really like, because I saw a little bit of criticism about this, is like all throughout the trailers, you see that little boy holding up the Superman flag in the war zone, basically like praying for Superman to show up. And like that was bringing me to tears in the trailers. I'm like, oh my gosh, this movie knows how to push every single one of my emotional buttons. Like this is going to be such a crazy sit. And when we get to that scene, Superman doesn't show up, but Green Lantern and Hawkgirl do instead. And some people were like, I can't believe they didn't have Superman show up in that movie for that kid. And I'm like, if Superman is really the Christ figure that we say that he is, a lot of us Christians say that he is and stuff, in movies, like what better storytelling than the example of Superman has now converted Green Lantern to do the right thing. And so, but he still does it in his own way that's true to himself too. He's like, you got an upgrade, kid, and smacking tanks with the green middle finger and all this other stuff. I'm like, it was like you called for Hulk Hogan, but Stone Cold Steve Austin showed up instead. And like, honestly, maybe that is an upgrade. You know, it just depends on what you want, right? But nevertheless, he inspired other heroes to see the world the way that he saw it. And that is Superman showing up. That is that prayer being answered. And I thought that was pretty dope. And so nevertheless, yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to see where DC is going. I'm not pessimistic about it. I'm eager to see what they do next. And there, you know, when we go back, maybe next time in part 2 we can get into other characters, because there are more positive things I wish we could have gotten from Snyder's universe. And things that I liked from it too, before it all got shut down. So, nevertheless, I am I'm very excited to continue this conversation when we come back in. So, everybody who rides with us on the channel, thank you guys for being here tonight. Thank you, A, for taking the time today. I appreciate it, man. I know your plate is full, and I hope your literal plate will be full later tonight as well, and that you know, you will enjoy your evening with B and everything. And so be on the lookout, channel community, for part 2. We will let you guys know when that's coming. But as for now, any final goodbyes? Boy, that sounded morbid. Any final words? Any last words?
I already checked out to 2 days. No. I hit that final 1, 2, 3, and I'm off there.
That's it, brother.
Yeah, that's it for me. No, I appreciate this. This has been a good talk. There's a lot more that we can definitely dig into. There were
For
different
sure.
things I liked about Superman, things I liked about we'll call it the old canon of DCU. I am interested and looking forward to where DCU is going to go, where James Gunn has us on a road to. I don't really know, but I know part 2 is going to be off the chain, so I can't wait.
Absolutely. All right, guys, just be on the lookout for that. Thank you so much for spending your time with us tonight. We'll see you guys next week for more wrestling between A and B Convos Wrestling Edition. Next week is SummerSlam week, everybody. Get plenty of sleep, stay hydrated, stay well fed. We've got a lot of wrestling to watch this week. So we'll see you guys next week, and everybody have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Don't forget to be a Mars.